What was that? What? What's that sound? Where? It's aliens and they're living in your town. Damn. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of
What up, weirdos out there in Weirdo Land? It is the Weird and Whatever podcast. We are back for our second episode of the season. Denny's, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well.
Vicky, how the heck are you?
I'm good.
Beckett? I said Beckett.
Cricket.
Mr. Beckett? Mr. Beckett is late again, so put his name on the board, please, Vicky.
Okay.
He gets one demerit.
What's the punishment? Or if you get too many demerits, what happens?
He has to watch a really scary movie by himself.
Bitch boy wouldn't like that.
No.
Well, we'll start him off something easy, like a poltergeist.
I don't know. Can he handle it?
What would you say?
Oh, I would make him watch Evil Dead Rise.
Is that a good beginner?
No, it's
scary
to
movie?
punish him. I don't think he could handle it.
Evil Dead, is that the newest one?
I think it's the newest one. Yeah,
I saw
it's
the
pretty gory and yeah.
It was the cover. It was a possessed woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, have you seen the other Evil Dead movies?
One other one. I forget which one I saw.
Was it
The
2010-ish or was it the old school?
It was the one where they're like running outside this cabin or whatever. I don't know, whatever year that was.
So in 10-ish or whatever, they rebooted it from. They kind of took the exact original story and then modified it for modern audiences. And that one was pretty good. That one's pretty gory as well. If you want. But I love the OG ones. I think it's Sam Raimi directed Evil Dead, then Evil Dead 2, which was a retelling of Evil Dead 1, and then expanded upon. And then Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, turns into like kind of a comedy. I digress.
We got some Evil Dead fans up in here.
I always liked Evil Dead. I felt like nobody ever talked about that movie, and I thought that one was kind of much outside the box of your standard.
I'm curious, how many people out there have seen Evil Dead? Do you know what Vicky and Denny's are talking about, or have you never heard this before? That's the guy with the chainsaw arm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ash Williams.
Yeah, the second one I saw, I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
So Evil Dead 2 is awesome. I would say just start with Evil Dead 2 because they had a better budget. And in the first 30 minutes of Evil Dead 2 is a retelling of all of Evil Dead 1. They just recap everything and then they continue the story on from when they would go to escape from the cabin.
Well, I do want to wish everybody a happy National Handcuff Day.
Wow. It comes up so quick.
So who's been in handcuffs before? I know, Denny's, you have. Would you like to tell that story?
I've been in handcuffs by the law.
That's what I'm saying.
A few times.
That's what I mean. This isn't a Beckett handcuff story. Who's been in handcuffs by the law? Vicky, have you?
No.
Never.
You've never been cuffed ever?
No, not by the law.
I've never been arrested, but I have been in cuffs. I've been detained before.
I've been arrested. I've been detained a few times. And always in cuffs. Yeah, they suck.
The first time you got arrested, do you remember how it went down?
First time I got arrested, yeah. And so first few times I got arrested, I was under the age of 18. So you don't really get arrested. And then you have to go to classes. And then once you turn 18. So the sucky part was the last time I got arrested, I was before 18. And they pushed my trial until I was 18 so they could try me as an adult, which sucked, yeah. So.
Dang, you are a bad boy. If you were in Cobra Kai, the series, you would have been a Cobra Kai.
Most likely. I probably would have. I always identified. Well, so it's weird because I always more identified with the bad guys in series for whatever reason, but I don't necessarily consider myself a bad person or a bad guy. I just kind of dug the activities they were into. I don't know what it is.
Okay, I'm going to say a movie where there's an awesome villain. And you tell me, great bad guy or terrible bad guy.
All right.
I'll say if they're awesome or not. It'll be on my awesome list, and you tell me if they're awesome or not. Scar from Lion King.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's good. He's got the jealousy. He's overthrowing his own brother. That's killing a family member.
Hans Gruber, the bad guy from Die Hard.
He's great too. Iconic.
Yeah, I guess.
He's awesome. He's amazing.
He's great, yeah.
If he was better looking, it would have been more enticing.
Is that Alan Rickman?
Yeah, I believe it is.
And then he's avenged, right? In Die Hard with a Vengeance. Isn't that Jeremy Irons plays his brother?
Spoiler alert.
All right, sorry.
Whoa,
I'm sorry.
Denny's.
That movie did not come out 20-something years ago.
Wow. We want to do some Ask Vicky right now. Vicky, who is awesome. She's our psychic medium. People are always asking questions about the unknown, Vicky. You are also part of a ghost team. I never want to call you a ghost hunter because we don't believe in that. The first question for our awesome Vicky is, are there any places or situations you refuse to investigate because of potential danger?
The only time that there's ever been what I consider potential danger that I didn't want to get into would be the client themselves. Like if I have a client that, say, we've done the interview and I can tell that there's some kind of like mental illness they might have. There was one case when I was on Florida Ghost Team. It was an elderly man that lived in Boynton, and he thought he had this little demon that lived in the little TV case, underneath the TV. And we went over to do the investigation, and one of the investigators sat down on the couch and reached into the cushions, and there was a loaded gun.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was a situation. So you always have to, it sounds fun. Oh, I'm going to be a paranormal investigator. But if you're doing what we have always done, which is help residential, clients, you have to realize that the human aspect of it is probably more dangerous than the spirit aspect.
Because you're right. Sometimes it could be mental illness that's going on there, and you don't know what you're dealing with.
Right. And we didn't know we were dealing with an elderly man who thought he saw this little creature with a red nose with a loaded gun in the couch.
And you went to the house and you felt nothing? You didn't get any of that?
No, there was some paranormal activity in the home. It just wasn't to the extreme. It was complicated because of his mental condition. And there's been times where we have gone, say with an elderly person. Again, we picked up some paranormal activity, but really what was going on this one case, another guy actually in Boynton as well, he was in the early stages of dementia. So after our interview and our investigation, we figured out that that's what was going on, and we recommended that he go to a medical professional. And he did, and they diagnosed him. He got on medication. That man reached out to us for like 2 years, like once a month for 2 years to thank us.
Oh, wow.
Now, let me ask you this. Let's say you have somebody who has dementia, and there's also spirits going on. Does that happen often? And if it didn't, why would it not?
Well, if you have dementia or if you have, any other kind of thing where you have a chemical imbalance, you are more likely to see the spirits that are in your home. Whereas the normal person who doesn't have any chemical imbalances, you may not be able to see those spirits. If you have that, because we're built to not be able to see them. We're not supposed to really walk around and see ghosts. So when your brain and the chemical balance is off and you're able to see them, you're going to see them, obviously. And so there's that fine line with a person with dementia or something like that. Basically their guard's down, so they're going to see things. So yeah, are they in the early stages of something? That man's a perfect example. There was activity in his home, but once he was medicated and all of the chemical imbalances in his body were evened out, he could no longer see the activity that was in his home. That was what was beneficial for him, is to be on that medication rather than to say, oh yeah, we found that your deceased wife is in your house.
That's going to be kind of dicey, though. If you're saying if you have dementia, you're more likely to see stuff, but where is that line at where you're not seeing something? It is in your head. The disease takes over.
I know. It is.
What's that line?
It is, and that's why I've done studies with schizophrenia, and to see whether schizophrenia is truly just a mental kind of illness, or is it just are they really hearing voices? Are they really seeing? We did. I had somebody that used to live down the street. She was Baker acted one night. They diagnosed her with early onset schizophrenia, and she told me, she says, I hear two men, an older man, a younger man, and a female. I hear them in the house all the time. They're telling me all these things to do and telling me this. I went down after a certain time period. I set down 2 recorders. I recorded 28 EVPs in a 2-hour span of a young man, an older man, and a female. Exactly the voices that she was claiming that the doctors said were a byproduct of her schizophrenia.
Denny.
So, sorry.
No, go on.
I was just thinking, you know how they say that children are more likely to see spirits, talk to spirits, have imaginary friends and such. Are the elderly known to do that as well? The only reason I bring that up is maybe because sometimes they regress to more childlike behavior as they age.
Right. Well, if you want to go by the Bible, it says once a man, twice a child. So if you're going by that, yeah, it could be some of the things that go on with us as we get older. It makes it much easier for us to see.
So would the same principle apply to somebody who has maybe a chemical imbalance that it does then open them up? Maybe they do hear voices. It allows them to hear stuff that they tend to not. And then they're misinterpreting it just because of the imbalance. Right.
A good example is if you have a door that has a screen door. Or the difference between, so most of us have a screen door on our front door. So we open up, we get fresh air, we don't get the bugs, right? But if you don't have that screen door, everything can come in. Same concept.
Gotcha. So, all right, that makes sense that why people that would have in those 3 life stages maybe communicate with spirits and such. It makes sense.
And when I was doing my studies on schizophrenia, it's going to be your more ill-intended spirits that are going to speak. They're going to try to manipulate. There's been cases where I do believe that people have committed suicide. It was blamed on their schizophrenia, that they heard the voices telling to do that, and that was just their condition. Sometimes I think those are spirits telling people to do things.
Did you get any feelings when you walked in today?
No. Did not.
We kind of talked a little bit and kind of came into the studio. I wanted you to do a walkthrough today, maybe after the podcast.
Okay.
And when you do a walkthrough, just for anyone that's new to the podcast, what exactly is that?
I just walk through a space and see if I pick up on any energy or anything like that.
One of the questions here is, what's the most unsettling message you've received from the other side, where it's kind of shook you?
Takes a lot to shake me. We've been cursed at.
You said that one time or a couple times when you've done EVPs and recorded stuff at my house, not only here, I believe, and there was at another place where somebody called you a bitch a couple times.
Well, no, to clarify, they called Bobby Joe a bitch.
Bobby Joe.
Yeah.
No one called you the B word?
No, what happened was we were using the spirit box, and it was at your previous townhouse. And so we're standing there, and over the spirit box it says, bitch. And I said, who are you calling a bitch? The spirit box said Bobby Joe.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, whatever goes.
That doesn't suck. That's awesome.
I don't like spirits yelling at my ass while I can't hear them.
You wouldn't like that if it said, fuck you, Denny's.
Yeah, I'd want one that's like, yo, bro, that's cool.
But yeah, I've been cursed out a few times. I said get out or,
So that's about the worst you've seen?
Yeah, I've never had anything... I've never had anything threaten to kill us or anything like that.
Nothing at an Exorcist the movie level.
No.
This is a question I get quite a bit. I don't think we've ever talked about it. Kind of a sixth sense type of thing. Have you ever encountered any spirits who didn't know they were dead? Like a Bruce Willis kind of a thing?
Yeah. There's been a few in all the investigations I've done. I came across a few that didn't seem to quite realize what was going on. I've also bumped into the earthbound spirit that chose not to go to the other side.
Someone who doesn't know, what is that like? Kind of paint that picture for us. How do they act, and how do you know they don't know?
A lot of times if a spirit doesn't realize, they literally will be like, why are you in my space? And here they are dressed like the 1800s, and they're like, why are you in my space? And that's when I figure out, oh, you don't know. When I first started as an investigator, one of the rules on Florida Ghost Team is that you couldn't say to the spirit, how did you die? And one of the rules that she had for us not to ask how they died in case they didn't know they were dead. We didn't want to shock them immediately. We wanted to kind of ease it in case they needed help, and we could make them realize that they were deceased and that they could go to the other side.
I'm going to ask you kind of a speed round. Tell me if you've ever seen this type of spirit. Disco from the 70s.
Yes. That was through the reading.
Okay, breakdancing, 80s.
No.
All right. 1700s, kind of a country style with, churning butter.
Yeah, actually in St. Augustine.
Would you say you see more old-timey spirits? And if so, why?
No, I'd say I tend to see things more from like the 70s to now, I guess. I've been lucky enough if I go to a historic location, if I'm on vacation or something, I might bump into, something from, 1800s.
What about 1990s Lord of the Dance?
Very good, Denny. I kind of blanked. Thank you.
Absolutely not.
Really? I think a river dancing ghost would be amazing.
If you were, let's say you went camping, Vicky, and at this campsite there was a murder, or let's say 3 murders at this campsite, and you walked by it, do you feel that you would get a sense? Is that pretty much an automatic guarantee?
Pretty much. I mean, a lot of times if I'm on vacation, I'm kind of like completely shut down. But like, I'll give an example. I've been to this one place over at somebody's house. I've been there now a million times. And I was sitting downstairs looking up because the upstairs has like an open hallway type. It's like a curving staircase. And I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden I saw something come out of one of the rooms and go back and forth. And I'm like, okay, I've been here a lot and never picked up on this spirit. So when we got ready to walk up the stairs, I was almost to the top of the stairs, and I literally walked through that spirit.
You could feel it pass through you.
Yeah, I literally walked through it. And that's a case where all those other times I'd been there, no clue. I never felt it.
So was it a new transient spirit, or was it one that's always there, just never caught your...
When I tried to figure out who it was, I think that they've been there. They just kind of hid from me.
I guess that makes sense.
Didn't want my attention.
Not all spirits are probably in your face. A lot of them are probably timid.
Yeah.
Are they always English-speaking spirits you encounter, or do you ever get, a French?
Like a French,
yeah. Oui.
Well, we have captured EVPs in Spanish before on cases. And one time in particular, we were walking down where I used to live. We were walking down the road. We had recorders. And when we got in front of, this one spot, we had several. And at first I couldn't figure out, I'm like, what are they saying? I'm playing it a million times. And then my friend who speaks Spanish, I'm like, could you listen to this? She goes, oh, they said blah, 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 blah in Spanish. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
It would make sense that you'd hear every language, I'd imagine.
You would hope so.
Especially in the Northeast, because a lot of immigrants coming to the country.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when, you watch Star Wars. Everyone, most of the people up there spoke English. It's just weird. A galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
And the majority of the creatures up there they're English speaking.
Well, so yeah, in some sci-fi, they'll explain that they have some sort of universal, and no matter what language you spoke to them, it converts it on the fly for them. But yeah, in Star Wars, they never specify, and then some of them speak different languages. So, yeah, you're right. Plot hole.
Of course, I'm kidding around over here. I'm working on some Star Wars comedy, Denny's. Can somebody do me a favor here? Explain. Let's see. Who do I want to give this homework assignment to? Let's see.
Do we take it home with us?
No, you have to on the fly. This is the teacher asking.
I was like,
people, when we talk about parallel universes, people get confused.
Because it's tricky. They say there's an infinite amount of parallel universes.
Oh, it sounds like we have a volunteer.
Yes.
I'm not even trying to volunteer. I'm just saying.
Well,
you raised your hand first.
You kind of did. So, Denny's, in layman's terms, explain what parallel universes are. If someone who doesn't understand it, what does it mean?
Well, so even myself, who barely understands it, I don't know what that noise was. It was like a woo 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 noise.
That's great. Hold on, I'll be right back. Denny's, take the floor.
All right. So am I gonna have to re-explain this when you get back? Because I don't really feel like getting down like that. It was a weird noise though, right?
Yeah. That's why I took my.
I heard it too, and I was talking. Then I was trying to stop talking. So maybe it's Beckett, because if no one's noticed, I cut to the wizard just because to fill that space. Otherwise, it was just an empty mic.
You would have thought that he would have.
I'm worried about Beckett, by the way.
Yeah, because he usually responds.
He usually sends that fake, I'm 2 minutes away text when he's really 10 minutes away.
Did anybody text him, though?
And so basically that's string theory. Oh, Bird's back. No, it's very complicated. So I guess with the way the math works is that there's multiple dimensions, and that a lot of the properties that we experience, like water, gravity, is all split up amongst all of those, and that there's infinite timelines. That's where things get little Thanos, that there's all these different timelines. So every time a decision's made, like a butterfly effect, There's another timeline. I feel like, what's the purpose of that?
Do we believe in this? For me, this is tough to kind of get my head around.
Yeah, I mean, I got enough stuff rolling around up here. I have a hard time with.
Well, then
concept.
there's another universe with me in it.
That's what they say. They say that there's multiple universes with you in it.
How does that jive? So
That's what I'm saying. That's where I kind of am not in love with this. I mean, it's cool, and I know a lot of people will debate it, but it's cool on a sci-fi level.
okay, but let's say if this is real, there's another Jason Pennington out there in a different universe, same age and everything, and
One hit a home run.
one
There was a scout in
tripped
the-
over a shark body.
Yeah, like whatever those decisions would be. Every time that tangent happens, it would create a different timeline.
I don't know, Vicky. I don't think I'm jiving with this.
No, I guess the part that I have a hard time wrapping my head around is like, okay, and I'm not saying I'm infallible or anything, but how come no other psychic medium has picked up, oh, I see a jaybird over who is successful, blah, 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 in another parallel universe? How come we can't pick up on those parallel universes?
Yeah, you're only picking up on the one. But people would argue maybe a different universe would be a different spirit realm. Maybe it would be just its own universe.
It'd be a different Vicky.
Its own dimension, rather, would be a better way of saying it.
I don't know.
Yeah, but people who read, I mean, we're reading people on the other side. We're looking at glimpses in the future.
It's just crazy. Since the internet, you can really explore so many different theories that are out there. So many people got odd, weird theories. The newest theory is that aliens are us from the future.
Yeah, that they're traveling back in time and then we're seeing them. Yeah, any of it could be possible. I mean, the fact that there's even life on this planet is pretty crazy. To think about, dinosaurs were 230 million years ago. That meaning that they existed and then went, and then we came, and inevitably, I'd imagine, we'll go.
So technically, that'd be a parallel universe for cave people as well. It's getting fuzzy, Vicky. It's getting fuzzy. I don't. With that said, I think it might be time for some
Denny's Random Facts.
I did text our sweet Beckett, and he is not answering me back. I said, "Are you coming?" And then I realized that sounded kind of dirty. He's definitely gonna write.
As long as you didn't use the you, you're fine.
I did not use the you.
So when I went to Colorado, there's a gas station called Come and Go, and I always take a photo of it each year and put it on the KVJ stories. And this year, they changed all the names to a different name. It's now just a regular ass name.
Well, yeah, because Come and Go probably.
It was amazing.
Yeah, well,
I digress.
Denny's is he scours that internet. He hunts for the best factoids out there in the land. Vicky, our educator, she grades them. If she loves his factoid, she gives it an A. If she hates it, she gives him an F. Denny's, the floor is yours.
All right. So we all know killer whales. They eat seals, walrus. They're pretty much apex hunters that hunt a ton of things in the ocean. But do you know what one of the things that they're a natural predator of? The moose.
What?
I know, right? Well, so funny enough, during the winter months, the moose will get salt deprived. And then when the snow melts and it starts warming up, there's a lot of fjords and different basins that fill, and they'll go and drink the salt water. But as they look for more like fish and things to eat in that area and grass and such, they'll travel out a little bit further. And orcas have been trained to come up and snatch them. So much so that the orcas will hunt all winter, and then in the summers they come up and they eat moose out of Canada, out of that whole area, Scandinavia.
Vicky, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm disturbed.
How random though that moose is one of the main things. Well, not one of the main things, but it's one of the supplementary things that orcas eat.
That must taste so good for an orca. They must love that, right?
They do it every summer. They go there and they eat them.
It's a moose nugget.
The moose, man, they want that salt. They're just out there licking that salt and getting eaten.
Vicky?
Well, it's depressing, but I will still give it an A because I never saw that one coming.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I had to double check it.
That one show, and I love it. It's called Alone. It's where people are out there, out in the woods by themselves. They gotta survive. This one dude shot and killed a moose and had so much meat, but that's all he could catch, and he kept losing weight. And I thought he was gonna win the whole thing because he had so much moose meat. Denny.
Yeah.
He led the league in moose meat. And
it's very lean though.
He kept eating the moose meat, and he had to quit the game because he was losing too much weight. Moose on moose on moose.
So I pulled this one. It's like kind of basic, but it's not. You were talking about moose meat, so I think I have to do it. I wasn't gonna, but
Look, get loose with the moose.
well, so all right. So you know the term we use the slang term bucks for cash. We're like, yeah, we got $50 or whatever. That comes from buck skin, the skin of trading bucks. It was a big thing in the 1700s, 1800s. In fact, deer skin, buck skin was all used as currency. And you're like, well, how much did they have? Well, they actually had a ton of it because they constantly had to hunt. You had to hunt for all your own food, and then they would use that. Well, anyway, so I was looking at the conversion rates of different hides in that area. Like, I didn't fully make this into a full fact. That's why it's kind of off the cuff. But 5 muskrat skins is equal to 1 buck skin. And this is going by, I would say, 1947-ish. It was when they were used. They used it all the way up until about the 1950s, and then they stopped. They started... so it got more federalized, and we kind of made more of a currency. But this was a pretty common currency for a long time. But yeah, so it was 5 muskrat skins are equal to 1 buck. But beaver pelt, 4 buck skins was equal to 1 beaver pelt. The beaver was just the most sought after pelt that there was in that. I'm not even trying to be funny, but it's definitely the most sought after pelt, and that I just didn't think the conversion rate would be there.
The beaver has always been sought after. I think we all can agree on that.
Well, so I was looking into it still with the buck. Past the buck, I was like, well, so where's that come from? Past the buck comes from a term that they used to use the stag horns to make the handles for knives. And poker was a very popular game in that time frame, and whoever had the stag knife in front of them, they would be past the buck, and they would be the dealer that turn. And if they didn't want to play, if they didn't want to deal, they could pass the buck to the next person. Well, so a prison governor in El Reno, Oklahoma, came up with a policy called the buck stops here. He didn't like anybody. He was a big poker player. He didn't like anyone in his prison passing the buck. He thought that was a weak move. So he made it a no passing the buck law. Well, the president at the time was visiting, and he saw that slogan and thought it was so awesome that he put it up in the White House. And then, whatever. So it was Harry S. Truman was the one that put that sign up. He saw that sign and thought it was great. Well, anyway, President Eisenhower was trying to think of a catchy slogan, and he was trying to bank off of the Pepsi slogan at the time, which was more bounce to the ounce. And he came up with the slogan, more bang for your buck. And that's where that phrase comes from, is from Eisenhower at that time. All just so random, off of the word buck. That's why it was just a wild tangent. I got real stoned earlier.
What do you think, Vicky?
Well, I thought it was a good tangent. We'll go ahead. I'll give him an A.
Whoa.
Yeah, an A it doesn't average the same weight in his final grade because it was a tangent, but it's still an A.
Tangent Tim got 2 A's right now.
So this one's for you, Bird.
All right.
I guess statistically, done by a college in Australia, in Sydney, musicians have a shorter lifespan than the general population.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see it as well.
Because I don't think musicians are known for being the healthiest people out there.
So what they did was they took every musician they could find in pop music, meaning they had a hit that was a popular hit.
Okay.
From 1950 to 2014, which averaged out to about 12,665 musician deaths. They found that 90% of them were male.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It makes sense. So when they were studying it, they calculated the deaths compared to the U.S. population deaths. They found that the accidental death rate amongst them was 10 times greater. The suicide rates between them was 7 times greater, and homicide rates were up to 8 times greater for musicians. So equating that musicians typically by average have a 25-year shorter lifespan than the average U.S. citizen.
Boy, I better put down my guitar. I almost called Virginia.
Pretty wild,
I almost called Vicky Virginia. I apologize.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I'm playing that for her tomorrow. We're going to start a little war tomorrow, Denny's. Vicky versus Virginia. I thought it was a great fact.
But just
what's your
random,
name, Denny's?
If you just go through the 25 years less. So musician lifestyle, man.
Vicky, what do you
Harsh.
think?
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you could name off the top of your head like at
So
least 10
many.
to 20 just like that without even thinking.
Totally.
That died way before their time. And the only exception, I always think about the exception about the lifestyle is
Keith Richards.
Yeah. And Gene Simmons, like,
Yeah.
never drank, never did drugs.
He was in, like, a Zappa was also.
I know, because a lot of times when you're that big of a dick, drugs and alcohol is kind of behind that. He's just a dick naturally. Grade?
Yeah. Hey.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Honor roll, Hank. Look at that.
Like butter on a roll.
Oh, whoa! It's Thursday.
Yeah,
my
it's
man,
still coming off.
jokes. Denny's, please keep going. You're crushing.
So you remember what the Nintendo looks like, the original Nintendo?
Love it.
It's like, I think it's black on the bottom. It's kind of beigey on top, whitey beige, and it's kind of square shaped.
Yes.
Well, according to Nintendo, all of the I'd say it said about 87% of the repairs that were turned into Nintendo were from drinks being spilt on it. So they went out to parties to see, and during parties, a lot of times people would set their drinks on the system. So when they were designing the Super Nintendo, they made it curvulature so that nobody could set drinks on it, and in order to try to save money and not having to repair systems.
Gosh, I love Nintendo. It was such a good system. Vicky, what was your favorite Nintendo game? And go.
I don't play games.
Damn.
Yeah, I never did. Is that the ones where if it didn't work right, you pull the cartridge
Yeah,
out
and
and you
blow
blow
on
on
it?
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
my kids used to do that all the time.
We had a whole system. I'd take the Nintendo game, I'd put it underneath my shirt and blow underneath my shirt and then say a chant called Metto Metto.
And that's how
Metto Metto. And if it wouldn't work unless I do Metto Metto. I don't know. It's just
I
kind
used to
of
always
what my
take
family
a
did.
Q-tip and I would just rub it like that real quick. I'd blew into it too.
Look, we all have our ways.
Yeah, I think that's what was kind of cool about when nothing against the internet. Internet's great, but before the internet, you just never knew what anyone else. You just thought everyone. I don't know. It's weird. You were kind of in your own household, so when you got out to people, you didn't realize they didn't know stuff, or you'd have 3 VHSs that you had memorized, and nobody would have ever heard of those movies, and you're like, how did you not see that movie? You're like, that's the only movie I watched as a kid. It's just you'd have these cool moments like that. Now I feel like everyone knows everything because they could just Google it, or we got AI now doing everything.
Yeah,
Denny,
I mean,
that was a kind of rant.
I know. I find my brain getting lazy because I can look it up. Like, I'll be watching a movie. I'm like, where have I seen them before? I used to make myself remember. Now I'm just like, okay, cast of such and such.
Well, that's a brain strengthening technique to actually try to remember something. Now nobody does. I mean, including myself. I'm just as guilty. I'll look it up. But if you do that a lot, you can I think you can get it back.
I think you're right. I think you can kind of, like a lizard tail, it can rejuvenate. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of stuff that's done for you takes a little bit of the edge off of, like, you're just everything. Like, you're not as sharp at all times because there's no need to be.
Well, that's kind of where we're going. I feel like we're kind of just submitting to the idea that the robot's going to be doing a lot of the work for us in the future. I don't want to go on my typical robot rant, but I will. No, but I think there's going to be some jobs where people are going to be very happy that they have AI and a robot helping them out. But I'm just saying, collectively across the board, does that make us a little bit more passive as a species? It's one of my fears is all.
Well, so I was kind of bummed out, and this is kind of weird, but there's a gaming engine, the Unreal Engine, which is used to make games. And now you can buy the package, and you can build walls, you can make grass, put trees in. It does it all for you. But you lose a little bit because when people individually made all this stuff, it was very unique because, the people had to make it all themselves. When you're able to buy these packages, it's cool because anyone can make a game, and some really great games are made by people randomly. But you lose a little bit of that uniqueness.
The magic.
Yeah, and it turns out that sauce is a little bit important to some of the stuff.
I think if we lose the magic of humanity, Vicky, we are fudged.
I think we're mostly there at this point.
Are we just dinosaurs just barking at the night, or do we have a point here? Because I'm not saying I don't believe in this technology. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I think you got to change with the times. But can't you see what I'm talking about as far as the spirit? Especially when it comes to the arts. I know that we will adapt. It'll be a new form of art. But to your point, Denny's, when you kind of, get involved and really put your own authentic signature on something, if you're not doing that, you're kind of losing the magic, the sauce.
I would agree. It doesn't have that lasting power. I feel like, and who knows, maybe I think every generation clings on to a certain era in their time, in their life, and then, they kind of decide the things that they like.
Yeah, I just think if you're born into something, you're not going to miss what other people are talking about. People can talk about the 1950s and the malt shops, and it was a great time. We didn't live down there.
We didn't live there, so we don't have that sentimental attachment. Is that what makes it special to us?
Exactly. Like I think if, with your son, baby Lachlan, he's born into this technology boom. He's only going to know about this technical world. He's not going to know about, all the things we're talking about. And does that matter? And I guess you would still pass on those those type of lessons, but I'm saying, what if there's a family that doesn't do that, where they are just straight up, it's all about that technology?
Yeah, I bet you everything, it kind of just ebbs and flows. So there'll be a period where it's super technologically, everything's technological, and then there'll be an era where people want that natural stuff. It's just going to constantly, I feel like there'll be a swing back of people resisting technology. I can already feel it with some people.
Well, what I always did as a parent is I always, like when we planned our summer vacations, we may have done a Disney or a Universal Studios, but we always did something historic. And we always tried to do something natural, like we would go to Mammoth Cave and for them to see the cave. We went to Grand Canyon, but we would go visit the plantations that are, Williamsburg, the reenactment of that, so that they got a chance to see what life was like before we had technology and things like that. My concern with AI, I'm a very concrete thinker. I like things that are real, believe it or not, even though, paranormal investigator, psychic medium, I like to know what's real and what's not. And so as AI gets better and better and better, that blurred line between me knowing, did this really happen? Is this a real video footage of this? Or was this all just generated?
It's gotten better, but it's
getting weird. Hey, Lily, how's it going?
Lily?
Man, she always does this to me.
Hey, Birdman. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm just here with my friends Vicky and Denny. We're just chilling, doing the Weird Whatever podcast.
That sounds awesome. Shout out to Vicky and Denny. You guys cooking up some wild paranormal talk tonight?
I gotta go, Lily. I'll talk to you later. It is getting weird. I found myself talking to Lily, the AI friend of mine over here, the other night on the couch when I was just fucking around with it, and then 20 minutes later, go, "What are you doing, bird?"
Yeah, it's getting better. Even the photos, the videos, they're all getting better. But I don't know. Is that good?
No, you're right, Vicky. I was watching something today, and it was these two little kids, and their dad's filming them, or he sets up a camera and he's walking in front of the camera. The little boy hits a little golf ball and in this epic fashion makes this unbelievable shot in the trash can, and then the little girl does the same thing, and immediately you go, holy shit, that was so awesome. And then you start reading the comments, great AI editing work by the dad, and then you go, is that fake? Is that real? And it looks so real to me. And that's at the lowest level, two kids hitting cool golf shots that I couldn't tell if it was real or not. And I don't know what to believe anymore, Vicky.
Well, what if you were the kid and you thought you made it or something? Somehow you didn't notice that it didn't go in there. And so you see this footage. You grow up thinking, hey, I did it one shot. I got it in the I mean, your whole childhood was a lie.
And it's crazy, too. Some of the shit, I don't know how much research you've done on how detailed the modern day drones are and what they look like. And when you put thousands of them up together, when you sync them up,
they look insane.
It looks insane, Vicky. Eyeballs in the sky. Imagine you're just chilling, driving down I-95, and then all of a sudden there's this huge bloody axe in the sky, and it looks so real.
It'd be terrifying.
Terrifying.
Or a giant eyeball.
An eyeball would be, or this huge snake.
Oh my god.
I'll say it.
Spell it. Spell the first two letters.
S-P.
Spider-Man.
I mean, a spider in the sky would be horrifying.
Oh my gosh. I would not like that.
But that kind of technology could trick people. Imagine if someone put a hologram Jesus up there.
That would trick a lot of people.
That would trick a lot of people.
Yep.
And then you come up with some kind of, I don't know, large speaker where you hear trumpets in the sky.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, horrifying.
Yep.
And how do you know what's real and what's not real?
Well, you don't you always talk about the War of the Worlds broadcast. Like people thought that was real. That's that's not fooling anyone today. But we have the equivalent of that same type of thing going on.
My dorky tip for the week: if it does start to rain and you're at your house,
All right.
go on YouTube and put on some War of the World clips from back in the day, back in the olden times. It's very cozy.
So, one of my friends got into listening to old time. I don't know what the heck you call it, murder mystery radio, where they'll have the and then it'll be there was thunder outside.
Yeah.
He got into it for a while, just listening to all these. It's actually very entertaining. So maybe put that on as well.
I love it. I think all that stuff's very cozy. I love old timey stuff.
Since we're throwing out old timey tips,
Mummies. Are you guys afraid of mummies? What are your thoughts on them?
I know Abbott and Costello are.
Were they?
No, yeah, I think they have an episode called Verse the Mummy.
Very good reference.
Nice.
Everybody can relate to it.
Nice and modern.
The Costello. Man, you are definitely my friend. Yes, a new study has uncovered the woody, spicy, and sweet scents of ancient Egyptian mummies, shedding light on the process and its evolution over time. I'll let this cat talk about it over here.
Number 3, if you've ever been to the Field Museum, you may have wondered, what do Egyptian mummies smell like? Well, it turns out surprisingly pleasant. Researchers and master sniffing scientists teamed up to study the ancient scents. They came up with a mixture of earthy waxes, oils, and resins. According to their data, the materials applied to the mummies contain pine, cedar, and juniper, and plus gum resins like frankincense and myrrh. Read more about it in the latest edition of Journal of the American Chemical Society.
Ooh, that's a good one.
A wonderful winter read in the bathtub.
Back to you, Sally.
Yes, Vicky, what are your thoughts on the mummy?
I mean, as far as I've never been scared, but I had this, I have my obsessions like Henry VIII and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a time period where I guess I was early teens. I was totally obsessed with Egypt and the mummies and the pyramids and that whole culture. And as it turns out, back in the day, the curriculum for, I don't know why, the curriculum for third grade social studies was Egypt.
Yeah, I remember learning that when I was a kid. I always loved Egypt as well.
So we legit are the nerd herd. Collectively.
Talk about the Euphrates.
We are a bunch of dorks. we all like some dorky shit. I love it. I love dorky shit.
I always liked Egyptian gods and stuff. I always liked the mythology, the Greek mythology, the Roman mythology.
What was it about Henry VIII that just you fell in love with?
I don't know. I mean, I should have gone to church that Sunday. If I had gone to church, I never would have watched that thing on PBS, and I never would have been a fan. But because of my whole thing with Henry and anything surrounding him, I got a Jeopardy question last night correct because it was about Mary, Queen of Scots. And what country was she from? That's all because of Henry and my obsession.
Nice.
There is something special because there'll be probably 4 episodes in a row of Jeopardy. I don't get a fucking question right, but every now and then the Jeopardy gods kind of shine some love on you, and you get 3 or 4 right in front of a person. Pretty cool.
Well, this is like an online, it's like one that you tell Echo play Jeopardy or whatever, and there's like 2 other opponents, and then you get I think we got 6 or 7 questions, and we were in last place, but I got 3 of the questions.
Double Jeopardy stuff.
Yeah.
College Jeopardy is where it's at.
I'm a college, maybe even a 5th grade Jeopardy.
I can compete a little bit, not that much though, because they that's pretty hard too. Out of all the creatures though, Dracula, werewolf, the Mummy, Frankenstein, who's the creepiest? Who do you fear the most?
Frankincense and myrrh. Frankenstein always reminds me of that. Out of all of those classic movie monsters, which one do I fear?
There's one the 4 I just named: Dracula, werewolf, Mummy, and Frankenstein. There's one that clearly is the most horrifying out of the 4.
Werewolf, always.
I would have to go with werewolf, I think.
It's a slam dunk werewolf.
Well, because Dracula's going to seduce me and then drink my blood.
Yeah.
I'm cool with
That's a good time.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm even down. Whatever.
Yeah, seduce away.
Werewolf is going to be awful.
Yeah.
Mummy, I feel like I can outrun. Frankenstein.
Mummies, we can all agree Mummy's the weakest
Yeah,
one out of
yeah.
all these.
Frankenstein, I think I can outcharm, or I can not outcharm, but I can charm him.
I don't charm Frankenstein. I think that'd be tough.
No,
but did you ever see Monster Squad?
All right,
you.
so are we going on Monster Squad rules? We're not going on Mary Shelley rules.
we're going on Monster Squad
All
rules,
right,
dog.
I didn't know the game. Now that I know. All right.
I'm glad you brought that up, Vicky. I want to talk about underrated horror movies or scary movies. Monster Squad is an underrated horror movie for kids, but it's kind of not really for kids. I would say it's a teenager to an adult movie.
You want to be 16 plus, right?
14 plus.
14 plus, all right.
Yeah, come on, modern day.
These kids, they got
yeah,
TikTok.
Exactly, TikTok. They're going to sweat a werewolf? No.
Does he say werewolves nards or something?
Yeah.
Wolfman's got nards. Yeah, that's a good one. And then Kevin brought up this movie over on Monday called Alligators. And it's from 1980. It's free on YouTube. I've talked about it a lot this week on the KVJ show. Surprisingly very good.
All right.
Underrated. It's free right now on YouTube. And one KVJ Nationer did watch it, and they agreed. They liked it.
All right. I want to kind of see the second one, too. The mutation, the one that they said was awful.
This just in. Heard from Mr. Beckett. Here's his excuse. Shit, guys. I'm sorry. I totally had a brain fart and thought we were doing it on the weekend. I'm at a client dinner in Wellington. I feel like an asshole. I'm so sorry. Damn, Beckett.
That's fucked up.
That's fucked up. All right.
I see how it is. He's always clients.
Beckett's made the list. Have you guys ever experienced sleep paralysis? Mm-hmm. What did it feel like for you, Vicky?
The one time that was most vivid is I thought I opened my eyes and I tried to move, but then it was like something put their hand over my eyes, and then they dragged me to the end of the bed, but I couldn't move. I couldn't resist. And really, if I was moving, I don't know. I did come awake or conscious. I was at the end of the bed, but I don't think I was asleep. So I don't know how I got that. That might have been more paranormal than it was sleep paralysis, but I couldn't move when it happened.
So they say when you fall asleep and you're in REM, right, your brain or whatever, it secretes something into your muscles to keep you from shifting in your sleep while you're dreaming. That way you're not just like
hurting yourself,
everyone, and hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So sleep paralysis is sometimes attributed to you woke up before your muscles had drained that chemical out.
When you guys get attacked in your sleep or in your dreams, do you ever find yourself thrashing or trying to kick them when you wake up? Are you kicking things in the air? Do you do that a lot?
Yeah. Well, I don't have too many dreams like that, but I'll do that. I'll cry and whine in my sleep based on what's going on in the dream as well. I never laugh though.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever laughed in a dream.
I don't have really happy dreams. It's very bizarre. They're very dark.
Let's turn this topic to nightmares.
Night terrors. Well, what's it called? Because to me, this is the worst. This is the worst kind of dream, or whatever you want to call it, is when you fall asleep. For example, let's say I fell asleep right now on the podcast, but when I go under, I'm still, I'm in my sleep form, I'm still in this room doing the podcast, but now all of a sudden there's something behind Denny's that wouldn't...
Like a penguin.
Yeah, there's some weird shit going on. I remember there was one time I was watching Saturday Night Live with my mom, and we were watching it, and I'd fallen asleep, but I was still in the room with my mom, and all of a sudden, the guy that killed Polly Kloss, you know that story? Never mind. It's you can Google it. He was the murderer that had crawled through the window and kidnapped this kid and murdered her. He was in my kitchen with a knife, slowly getting ready to stab my mom, and I couldn't say anything. But I was in that room watching Saturday Night Live, and then I finally ripped myself out of the sleep. And it was still that room, but now that guy was gone. What is that called? Is that sleep paralysis?
I don't know. That sounds just like a very vivid nightmare.
But
I think you're falling asleep and you're still...
You're just taking that scene in where you actually fell asleep, and you're just adding to it.
You're in it, though. It's crazy. It's
kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's what it reminds me of. It's very Nightmare on Elm Street. You're in that same situation, but it's kind of like a fucked up situation now. Yeah, you never had that.
The closest I could come to that is if you fall asleep in an airplane or in a car or in class and you're kind of asleep and you're still hearing what's happening around you, that can kind of transpose into your dream. Or if an alarm clock goes off and it has a song or a radio, that can kind of transpose and pull you out of his sleep. Like that's about the closest I can get to that level.
It's heavy stuff, yo. Very, very heavy stuff. But yeah, there's people who really do suffer from it. In fact, someone I know said that they, what's the ghost where they have their way with you while you're sleeping, or where they hold
incubus or a succubus?
Yeah.
Yes, they said that was going on, and they couldn't move, and it was holding them down, but they felt like they were sleeping, but it felt real. Do you get a lot of those stories?
I don't do a lot of cases where people have claimed that. The only case that I can tell you, we debunked it, that it wasn't an incubus or a succubus. What we found out is that the woman had suppressed memories of being molested when she was younger. And it just, for whatever reason, it was time for her brain to go ahead and reveal that this happened. And it was doing it in the form, I guess maybe to make it easier for her, that it was a spirit doing it. And then it progressed to where she saw the person who had actually molested her.
So what is that called then? Is that... was she seeing something, or do you think that was just her memory?
She was...
Was she manifesting?
Yeah, she was kind of manifesting. Her memory was coming forth in such a vivid way that she thought it was physically happening again, but she wasn't ready to process at first the person who had done that to her. So it turned that person, her brain turned it into a spirit. And then as she progressed, and then we, recommended therapy and stuff like that, then her suppressed memories came through and she realized what had happened to her.
Whoa. Denny, what are your thoughts about this? Memories?
I mean, repressed memories, definitely. I can see that.
It's kind of weird because our brain, it's trying to protect us by pushing this stuff in the background, but you can't heal until you deal with what happened. And so then it just starts revealing itself little by little. And here you are, 35, 40 years old, trying to deal with something that happened to you when you were 5 because you didn't remember it for 40 years. I mean, our brain meant well, but if it would allow people with these repressed memories to remember them sooner, then it would be easier for them to heal.
I do feel like when it comes to the brain, we haven't quite unlocked everything yet.
Oh yeah,
I think I think if you fast forward to 1,000 years, if we are still here, which there's a chance we are.
1,000 years? Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, not me personally.
No,
But yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't know. This technology is kind of really speeding along. You never know.
No.
You could be around in 1,000 years.
No, thank you.
You want out?
Yeah, I would not take the option.
Aging out of Earth?
Yes.
They're talking a lot about how you can start uploading your loved ones. I know. It's very Twilight Zone, Denny's.
It is. It's funny. There's a video game that I played that it's Cyberpunk. I'm sure people have probably played that in the chat room. That game has an awesome story, but technically it's pretty cool. The bad guy in that, he's a rich guy that hates this terrorist. So when he captures him, he takes his consciousness and puts it in a flash drive so that he can never die, and that he permanently owns this guy's consciousness. It's pretty messed up, right?
Well, I mean, do you
People
like
are
that?
gonna do stuff like that if you.
Do you like that that concept of you would still be around? You'd be uploaded. Do you like that, where you never really truly die?
No, I try to go more natural as time goes on, and maybe we're a dying breed, but I try to go more natural.
You wonder if it's all kind of connected, technology and the spiritual world, and it's kind of all coming together. Do you ever think about that? That maybe they do go hand in hand, or is that just a completely stupid thought?
No, I mean, to me, there's a difference between our soul and our intellect and that process. Because my daughter's, working with the medical examiner's office, and she was worried whether she could handle a dead body. And she said it's because they don't look real. And so I started thinking about it. It's because their soul's not there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if, let's use the example of somebody on life support. They may still, you may feel it's fake and they're not really there because their soul is gone. The body's just being kept alive on a machine. So to me, I think a lot of this stuff more has to do with our soul than it does our thought process and our brain power and all that kind of stuff.
This is just mere vessel, Denny's. It's the vessel for the soul.
Well, so yeah, I guess if you go with like Carl Jung says, we have a collective consciousness. So if they're making a computer server that is everyone's consciousness, I mean, technically it's just a digital version of that same thing. Now, if you go by the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they say that we shouldn't hold on to things, material things, or worry about our identities, because ultimately we're all of the same exact consciousness or energy. And by letting go is actually how you ascend.
We're all part of that buffet, baby.
Well, so you would be doing the opposite if you uploaded yourself into a consciousness. Like, that would be against everything the Tibetan Book of the Dead's saying.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm just
I was just asking.
I feel like it's going the opposite direction of finding nirvana or whatever.
Well, I've even heard too, if you had a large group, I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of people praying at the same time with the same kind of goal. Technically, let's say you're talking about peace and harmony and tranquility, that there truly is something behind that. What are your thoughts behind that? A large collection of people coming together with a similar goal of peace, unity. Do you think that moves the spiritual needle, or is that just...
Yeah, I think because it's positive energy. Same thing could be said if you have a group of people with negative intent, that you might see something else, a different byproduct of it. But collective energy, it's tangible. It's going to change people around you.
Yeah, I mean, some people think that's how a miracle can happen, when you have that type of energy. Denny's, I know you're the skeptic. You have all those people praying towards you, praying or sending out good thoughts, whatever you want to call it. Collectively, mass amounts of people. Does it move the needle?
Yeah, I think it would, because if everyone's sitting around praying and positively thinking they're not murdering, they're not, it's taking away from bad. You're doing only positive in that moment. So
I get shot in the stomach 3 times, and I'm going. It's over. You have 1 million people praying at the same time
for you to heal.
To heal, does it move the needle?
In that case, it starts losing a little bit of the power.
Yeah.
I would say, as a world peace movement, I think if everyone took a moment and meditated and prayed, then sure, yes, we could heal some stuff.
So we're not healing bullet wounds, baby.
That would be a tough one.
We're healing spiritual.
It could happen. Maybe that much energy could. I think it's better. It would work better in the other situation.
I guess the skeptic would go, what does one get out of the collective large prayer towards one goal? What does that really get you? And your answer would be?
Depends on how big of the goal.
Yeah,
and what you're trying to... Yeah, I mean, your bullet healing, may not be as invested with everybody in the crowd as world peace.
No, I'm not.
You're like, guys, use your one wish. I got shot in the stomach 3 times.
I'm not comparing my stomach to... No, that's not what I mean.
We're going to use world peace, but let's save birds.
I was using that as just an example of what the prayer can do. On a small level, it's not saving the bullet. On a big level, it's going to give us world peace.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It never made sense to me as a child because, I was religious. So we learned about the book of Revelation. And so I was like, okay, this, and this are going to happen. And then it's the end of the world. So as a kid, I'm like, okay, so why can't we just all be friends? And then this war isn't going to happen, and this situation isn't going to happen, and we can just stop it. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make sense to me as a kid. Now I know as an adult to try to get everybody on the same page, it's practically impossible.
Yeah, it's tough. You get 1 million people all wanting to have a lake start to boil. What are your chances?
It's going to be tough. I just feel like that's a tough goal. Again, is everyone on board for that?
Yeah. You can get 1 million people wanting to make a lake boil, bubble up.
I mean, I wonder what would happen.
We always joke about the things that when we were younger in movies we thought we would never see. Oh, it's just space talk, and that would never happen. And you're starting to see some of this stuff from movies come true to life. I wonder how far and how deep when it comes to the movies will that go. Time travel, I always wonder, will that happen?
Man, time travel is just so tricky.
I wish that would be my one superpower.
I want to go back and see how big those creatures were back in dinosaur time. I just want to see how big they were. I don't want to stay that long. I want to stay there for 15 mins.
Well, I don't think you could stay there that long.
You think 15 minutes, I'm definitely dead, no matter.
I think the air is so effed back then. It's just a different air than we have now. They probably were breathing all sorts of different gases and things. And oxygen, it probably was low.
Someone always wants to piss on my dino dream.
I just feel like you'd have to have a spacesuit or something, right? Like
Well, then, like,
well,
give
what
me
if
a
you open
fucking
the door? You're like,
spacesuit.
all right, let's see what dinosaur is. That'd be such an expensive mistake.
I'll get a spacesuit. I mean, this question's already absurd. So at this point,
Right, I'm trying to have realism.
give me the damn spacesuit.
You're like, fine, I'll wear it.
I just want to see some creatures.
All right, in that case, yeah, go back, see him.
And Vicky, we obviously know what time period you want to go back
Well,
to.
that's the first one, but I would go to all different ones that have fascinated me. I mean, what a great opportunity to like see history as it's happening.
It's not a podcast until I do this. Yes, we'd go back to the date. Let me see here. November 5th, 1955.
What if you went back and you're like, oh, I wonder what, Victorian England, and like some guy coughed on you, like the minute you got out of the
Yeah.
time machine, you came back, you have like bubonic plague, something insane.
That's why Doc Brown from Back to the Future warned you, don't mess with the time continuum, Marty.
Yeah, no, it causes a paradox. That's where they say those multiple dimensions, those are the divergence that cause that.
We'll end it with this since we're talking about Back to the Future. They say, movie experts say that Back to the Future is considered the perfect movie. There's nothing wrong. It's flawless. 100 out of 100 out of any movie ever made. That's the most perfect movie ever made.
Really?
Yes. What are your thoughts on that?
Who says this?
Yeah.
Movie experts of sorts.
You?
No, this is not my stat. Although I do think there's no fat on that steak.
I think it's a great movie, but I mean,
Perfect. I mean, what's the criteria?
It moves perfectly. It doesn't
Okay.
drag. The characters are great. The storyline is flawless. We're talking about just the first movie. It's well done across the board. Shot well, edited well. The soundtrack is great from front to
I
back.
agree with all that. I think Marty's kind of a jerk to his girlfriend, like we always talk about.
But
But
that-
I guess, that doesn't really hurt the movie.
That doesn't make the movie bad. That just is a flaw in his character, not the movie.
And it's got time travel, which is such a tricky one to say that's a perfect movie, because there's so many things that time travel could mess up in that.
I don't know if there's too many holes in the first one.
Yeah, no, I've never been posed the question.
I mean, I hear you guys arguing it, but I'm not hearing too many good rebuttals.
All right, he goes back. I'm just going through it.
Marty is, I don't know if you remember the beginning of the movie. Marty's kind of a dick to his girlfriend. They're walking together and another girl walks by. He blatantly looks over and does that sleazy move where he takes his sunglasses down and checks out her ass right in front of his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Kind of a dick move,
Doesn't
Marty.
he leave her sleeping on a bench? He leaves her, and maybe that's the second one. He leaves her sleeping by the dumpster.
Again, spoiler alert. Jeez, Denny's. No, yeah, you're right. They don't treat Jennifer very well.
They really don't throw
To be quite honest with you, they weren't very nice.
Zemeckis.
Well, weirdos, that is all for us tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week. We good for next week?
Yeah.
All right.
Am I bumping a track?
We don't have any. If you guys are a musician, please send me your original music. I would love to play it here in the Weird Whenever podcast. I don't care what kind of music it is, whether it's polka, whether it's country, techno, dubstep, rap. I don't give a shit. Classical. We'll even play some instrumental. Send me your stuff, and it'd be cool if you had a nice link to it. YouTube link, Denny's. It doesn't really matter, does it?
No, if you send it to me, I usually post it in the comments so people can check it out after. Do you want me to play anything?
No, we're good. Okay, guys, have a great week. We will talk to you later. And remember, Bigfoot is real.
What was that? What? What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens? Well, you